episode of Made in Spain. We just popped the cork on this bottle of Cava. It's beautiful. I am curious to know how to pronounce this properly.
I'm going to tell you, Nalini, how I think I would pronounce it, and it would be Freixenet.
Okay.
Freixenet.
Because it's from Catalonia.
It's from Catalonia, and that's one of the wonderful things. Oh, thank you. So we are super delighted to be here with you for the second episode as your co-host. So my name's Laura Senior Garcia, and I have with me Nalini Sharma. If you didn't hear our introduction, you may want to go back to episode 1 and just listen to a little bit of our background. So today we are starting the episode off, as Nalini said, with this wonderful glass of rosé cava from the brand Freixenet. That's what we just mentioned in terms of the pronunciation. And I think Nalini's capturing the beautiful sound of the bubbles there, trying not to pour too much over. Yeah. So Nalini, do you want to tell us a little bit about what our episode is about here today?
For sure. We are, first let's cheers.
Cheers.
First episode 2. Good. In the eyes.
Yeah.
In the eyes. Okay.
Lovely.
No bad luck. No bad luck.
And by the way, that would be like, I believe, chin chin.
Yes.
Or salud. Yeah. That's what we say when we kind of cheers. So
there we go. We have taken a wonderful trip to Madrid. Like we said in the podcast prior, our first episode, that we are going to be covering Spanish fashion brands.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea until I think you told me that Loewe is an iconic and very traditional Spanish brand that has been around since the 1840s-ish. I think there's some debate as to that, but it is, it's got a very long, interesting history. And until recently, I didn't even know how to pronounce it.
I think this is actually getting into the subject, so let's kind of dive a little deeper into the topic of today, which is, again, we're highlighting the brand Loewe, and I think that's the right way to pronounce it. There's a huge debate about how to pronounce the brand name. It's quite funny. There's videos that you can look up on YouTube about it. On the Loewe website, there's even a paragraph with them describing how they would suggest you pronounce their brand. And maybe we can give a little background of where the name comes from and kind of where the mix-up with the pronunciation comes from. Because let me just say, as a Spanish person, that is not a Spanish surname or a Spanish word or anything like that. It's actually a very non-Spanish sounding brand.
Exactly. And that's why when you told me it was Spanish, I thought it's so strange that does not ring a bell at all. Yeah. But I did a bit of research, and Loewe was born in the 1840s-ish, although I believe that's what the company has on their website. So it was 2 artisans that came together to form this company. They did not have that last name. They were 2 Spanish families. Loewe, Hendrik Loewe, became Enrique Loewe after he came to Madrid and became involved in the company, and that's how the brand and the name came about. There is a discrepancy in terms of the timeline and when he got involved, whether he bought shares in the company or if he took over or it was a hostile takeover. I've sort of done a little bit of a deep dive, and there's quite a mystery behind it.
I think they try to portray it in a friendly way.
Yeah.
Now, probably, obviously to the advantage of the brand. But I think the interesting thing is, yes, it's a German surname.
Yes.
I believe that Hendrik Loewe, or then that became Enrique Loewe.
Yes.
He was a very specialized also leather maker, as well as a businessman. So not sure exactly what happened there. It was late 1800s. We can't fact check a lot of this, but the reality is that the brand origin and the initiation of where this comes from is all about craftsmanship. Craftsmanship? Is that how you say that? Craftsmanship. There you go. And also about, the artisanship of like, how do you work with leather to kind of make a really refined product? So actually, I have a little bag from our trip here that shows how you spell the brand name, which is Loewe, Loewe, and we'll do a little unboxing of that in a moment here. So maybe talk more a little bit about the history, Nalini. So we got like how the brand was founded.
Well,
A little more about that.
after it became first, it started. The iteration was Loewe.
Yes.
And I mean, it is a Madrid company. It is in the center of the city, and it has stayed there. Their flagship store now is in Madrid. It went from Loewe to Loewe, and they don't know where in between how that happened. We actually, in the store yesterday when we were there,
Yes.
We asked if there is a book, and the guy kind of looked at us as if,
like, what?
Yeah, what? There's no, we don't have a book on Loewe.
And we kind of asked that because a lot of the other big brands, have a book about the brand,
The
or something like the history. Even sometimes what they call those coffee table books, that kind of has a little bit more background. But they didn't really have that, and I have a feeling, and this is not really captured anywhere, but there is a little bit of a kind of secrecy towards it a bit. There's not a lot of that is kind of out there, you could say, about the origins, unless you're really looking. And I think also, probably that's why a lot of people don't realize at the beginning that it is a Spanish brand. And actually, he was telling us yesterday at the store that a lot of people still come into the store and don't realize that it's a Spanish brand. Like, they'll ask about it and they're like, oh, okay. Because again, they're seeing the name and probably thinking it's French or German or something like that.
Well, after, 50, 60 years, the company finally launched, I think it was in not till the 50s, 60s, a ready to wear line. And prior to that, they were really a leather goods company. And one of their former CEOs said they did not think of themselves as a luxury brand. They just thought of themselves as a quality brand. And luxury doesn't necessarily mean a hefty price tag, although everything in Loewe
expensive
does have, a hefty price tag. They were all about the craftsmanship, the quality, and the artisanship that has existed here in this country for hundreds of years, and they've carried that on. I think at least for me, the brand is more about when you really appreciate, you're at you're in that phase of kind of fashion where you can appreciate something that's just really well made. You're not wearing it because you want everybody to see you.
I think it's almost like the definition of quiet luxury before quiet luxury became a thing. It's not, you're not going to see, you will see their logo on their handbags, but it's not like, like, let's say, for example, we both like, Louis Vuitton and some of these brands, but, the logos are pretty much like plastered everywhere. You won't see that in Loewe. Like, you'll see the logo, but you're not going to see it like multiplied times 100 on a bag. It's very much kind of quiet luxury, and I think that they probably were doing that before it was a real big thing, you could say.
100%. And I think the one bag that really sets them apart is the puzzle bag.
Yes, even though we asked yesterday which is your most kind of sold handbag, and I was so expecting him to say the puzzle bag. And he went, no, actually, I think he said it was like the Cordoba or something like that that they had there, or a remake of that. But I really thought it was going to be the puzzle bag, because to me, that is so iconic. When you think of Loewe, you think puzzle bag, or you think as well the little, what do you call them? The baskets.
Yes.
The Loewe baskets that you said kind of remind you of Mallorca as well.
Well, I will say, and this is not a knock on Loewe, but
yes. We do love the brand.
This is an observation. This is simply an observation. The basket, the summer basket that you, quite frankly, can buy one at Massimas for 20 euro. It does not have the Loewe leather embossed on the outside. It's still a basket bag, though.
Oh, yeah. It's going to serve exactly the same function. Let's face it.
And I will just say, well, I looked at the price. It's 500 euro.
Yeah, and that's for like very, very basic basket with the logo nicely embossed and all that, but it's still a basket. That's where I think To me, what I appreciate about a brand like that, let's say if I'm going to go buy a handbag there, I would be looking for the leather, the really
Exactly.
nice soft leather that's going to continue to evolve with time, where, it starts looking a certain way.
And it becomes a vintage piece for you, or you
Absolutely.
keep it, or it has a resale value. I mean, I'm not knocking their basket bag. I mean, it's definitely better than the ones they sell at the grocery store.
But still, like you
However,
said, and
yeah,
it's more,
yeah,
to me, the basket is more like a fashion statement
yes,
than it would be an actual, like, again, we go back to what's important to us, and it's quality, it's the product. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that, if I'm gonna go and choose a piece in there personally,
right,
I would be going for one of the ones that have that resale value. That
yes,
would be the puzzle or one of the other ones. Also, I think it's worth mentioning that the decoration in the store, and it also reflects very much that very clean lines.
hmm.
We noticed when we walked in there was barely any music playing.
There wasn't
It
music.
was like super
Very
simple.
quiet.
All the products are like very dispersely spaced
Yeah.
out. It's not like a lot of things in the same place. It's not very flashy per se.
No, but the collaboration they had with the Japanese artist, they have a really beautiful display, and they change it seasonally.
Yeah.
But let's talk about our experience then.
Sure, absolutely.
From
Add the story, yeah.
yeah, so we took the train to Madrid, which
Mm-hmm.
was fantastic. We have a
Mm-hmm.
bullet train here, so 2.5 hours. We're in the capital city. Quick trip to the Loewe store. They were super welcoming.
Yes.
And we were very upfront. We were sort of nervous at first because
Like, we're kind of shopping, but we're also looking around.
we're here on a reconnaissance mission,
Yes.
just to get a flavor, a feel, an experience. But I told, and I felt bad I didn't ask his name.
Yeah.
He was really, really nice, very helpful. And we were very upfront with him. We said, listen, we're starting this podcast, and this is one of the brands we want to feature. We just have some questions. And I think the first question I asked him was about those wooden, like, I don't know what you,
He said, so there's like these big wooden sticks,
yeah,
is the way I would describe it,
yeah,
but they're not obviously sticks.
They look like screws.
They
like
look like
giant screws,
but they're somehow used in the process of making olive oil in the countryside.
Yeah.
And they had taken those and refurbished them and made them into decoration pieces.
And they're authentic. They're not replicas. They didn't just make it as, a piece. They're originally used in olive oil production.
Yes.
So, I mean, it was just interesting. That was, I would say, outside of their collaboration that they had in the front. That's really the only decoration. They had nothing. It's very clean, very simple.
Very, very different. And I will say, and we mentioned this to some of the people at the store as well, because I was on a recent trip to Japan, and I saw a number of Loewe stores in Tokyo. I thought it's really fascinating that I do think somehow the brand, maybe because it's also catering to the international market, and particularly the Japanese market, because they're very big there.
Yeah.
Again, we saw the Japanese collaboration, some of the pieces that were there. This is their second year in a row that they're doing.
And he said it sold out.
Yeah, exactly.
As soon as he said it was almost sold out in pre-order.
So I think that vibe also kind of is incorporated into the store design a little bit. And again, going back to even like the look and feel, the smells, it wasn't, very overpowering. I think it's also worth mentioning that they do have a wonderful line of perfumes. And before we ever knew we were going to be talking about this subject, that's one of the gifts that, remember, I got for you last year, was one of the Loewe perfumes. I think it's called Ella. Ella, yeah, so her basically is the translation. And that's the one thing that we did purchase yesterday was a perfume. So I'm going to go ahead and open it.
It's a much more comfortable price point, let's just say.
Than the handbag. Yeah. So the one I liked was like 2,300 euros. I'm like, okay, that's going on the wish list for some point. So we're just unboxing this like beautiful perfume with my super long nail, which helps. And this one actually is Nalene is my designated stylist for clothing and for perfume. She picked for me, and this perfume is called Earth. So hopefully I can figure this out.
I will say, and this is just advice, I know, for people who are, let's say you're in Madrid for the day and maybe you think that you don't belong in a designer store or it seems intimidating. What I would say is that a lot of these very high end stores, it's much more than a retail experience. It's like
It's like a little museum.
it is like being in a museum. And their customer service was excellent. They made everybody feel welcome. Not everybody was fine. Some people were looking, and they treated, I mean, I would say that they were really very welcoming.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would give them kudos for that. It has not been my experience at every designer store because sometimes, maybe I do want to buy something and maybe it is going on the wish list, but I still have to look around. So do you. Eleni, can you do this, please? My nails are getting away. Oh my goodness, this perfume bottle actually goes with what we're wearing, and we did not do it on purpose.
Maybe that's why. A second,
That's why it's kind of becoming harder. One thing about the perfumes that we did find out that was quite interesting, there's some that are at a price point of between 100 and 150 euros, which is one of the ones that we purchased here. But then they have these collaboration bottles.
And I did ask them, I said,
like, what is the difference?
Yeah, you have perfume that's 100 euros, 70 to 100, maybe 150, and then it goes from there to 250 to 850. So I asked him what the difference was.
Good.
It turns out the difference was a ceramic piece on the top. The perfume is the same though.
I was like, okay, I think then we'll save that for the handbag.
It's nice.
Yes. So super recommend the experience. And again, going back to why did we want to talk about this brand? Number one, it's iconic. It's a high luxury brand. It is a Spanish brand. They even at one point, I think we didn't mention, they even served the royal household.
They did.
1905, 1910, they had a contract where they were the ones that were like providing products or, presents, royal gifts.
It would be the same in England. I think when you get the majesty, the queen's stamp or the king's stamp on it.
Yes.
It becomes something official and recognized. It's the same. So they had the same royal assent.
So imagine that. And that's like over 120 years ago. And a bunch of people are buying this brand around the world and they don't even know it's Spanish. So that's why we really wanted to feature Loewe. And, hopefully, people find it interesting and get to find a little bit more about this really cool brand.
And it's also, I think it's a springboard to talk about the town of Ubrique.
Yes, which we'll be doing later on.
I don't know if I'm saying that correctly.
I think you're saying that perfect. I don't know if you've been practicing the pronunciation or what's going on, but that's perfect. Ubrique. I wouldn't say it any other way.
Which is, this is as well almost a little secretive town in which the artisans there, they have to sign NDAs.
Yeah.
So they cannot talk about the brands they're designing for, the brands that they work with, but most of the luxury houses, their products are coming from that Spanish town.
And you just remind me of something that I wanted to also make sure that we mention too. So Loewe, through a different stage process, was eventually purchased by the conglomerate LVMH, that owns Louis Vuitton. And one thing that I found quite interesting, even though they're part of that, they haven't moved in the same direction as some of the brands in LVMH. So, for example, when you go to Louis Vuitton, a lot of the new handbags are made with what they call canvas, which is not leather. And again, I understand that for some people, they don't want to be using leather because, there's, they may be like more directed towards like animal rights, etc. So fully on board with that. But again, if you like leather products and you're paying a high price for a handbag, you may feel like you're getting a little bit cheated when you're getting something that is not leather. So even though they're part of that LVMH conglomerate, they haven't moved in that direction. A lot of their stuff, unless it's a particular material like the basket, it's still leather. So it's still, very much based in that craftsmanship. Maybe, do you want to mention about the direction they took with John Anderson, with the designer?
When Louis Vuitton took over, they appointed a new artistic director. And I mean, he didn't change much. It's just that it's the puzzle bag that sort of put Loewe on the map. And then really just focused on the, modernizing, maybe something that was a little bit more traditional. Also, he did a few collaborations with rappers to put it in the forefront of fashion. But I would say, unless I did the research, I probably would not have walked into that store.
Yeah.
But now that I have been in it, I can really appreciate the things.
It was more of an experience.
It was
and
an
it would have
experience.
just walked in. So.
And I do want one of the bags.
Awesome.
So, cheers to Loewe.
Cheers.
You did your job. You made me a consumer.
Our second slice of life. Really, really excited actually to talk about our little trip to Madrid.
Oh, it was so fun.
And today we are obviously continuing with our wonderful Cava here. And actually, I don't think we mentioned it when we first poured the Cava that Cava is quote unquote like Spanish champagne.
Right.
But you can't, obviously it's not champagne if it doesn't come from the region of Champagne in France. And it doesn't mean that it's any better or any worse, it's just different. It tastes, I guess, like champagne. Is very similar, but it's from a different region, and obviously lots of different connotations there.
Yeah, and so, it's
just tastes a little bit more acid.
Oh gosh, I'm terrible with wine tasting.
Okay.
I just drink it because I like it.
It's like more on the consumer side than the connoisseur side.
I will. I'll know if I don't like something. So
Yeah.
immediately I will decide that I don't like it. But quick fact about Cava. It came about because there was a plague of the red grape variety throughout Europe.
What?
And also Spain lost a lot of their territory in South America.
Okay.
So wine that would have been exported or they would have shared relations with, they could not produce the wine anymore.
So they started.
So winemakers figured out that they could grow white grapes very easily. The climate was well suited for it, and they studied the method, the traditional champagne method from France, and brought it back here and started producing it to make a new industry, right? So when you think in the 1900s, early 1900s, you have farmers that are struggling. There's then there's the Spanish Civil War.
Yeah,
this was a way for them to make money and business. And the bottle from Freixenet, the black bottle. Yes. That's something very iconic that people were against putting that black bottle out, but it has become emblematic of this particular brand.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So it was almost like a transition because of the struggles with the production of red wine.
Yes.
To go to Cava, which is interesting because, as I believe I had the luxury of visiting the Champagne region.
Yeah.
One of the things that I realized is it is extremely complicated to make champagne or Cava or anything that has the bubble, you could say.
And it's the yeast.
Yeah.
So they say apparently for this particular brand, the yeast is as if you make a sourdough bread, the mother yeast, they have the mother yeast that is extremely old.
Amazing. So, slice of life today, we want to talk about our trip to Madrid. And we have the churros with chocolate here, which is something very typical that you can find in a lot of the churrerias in Madrid. Churros are basically super unhealthy. Like, they're fried dough. They're so decadent, and we didn't actually put them on these churros, but a lot of times people put actually glass sugar. Yeah, the kind of icing sugar. That's right, on top of the churros. So
and it's the cinnamon sugar.
So by the way, a lot of people recognize churros as well from Mexican cuisine. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get into who owns churros, but I'm pretty sure they came from Spain. But you can find churrerias and a lot of different places where you can buy churros in Madrid. And the typical thing to have them with is hot chocolate. So we actually have some hot chocolate here. I was trying to even out my glass with Melini's glass, so that's why it looks like I've done a big decoration thing. We'll try the churros. Oh, look, they're so crispy.
Oh, it's warm.
Hot chocolate.
Apparently, in Spain, there is only loud, crunchy food.
Yummy.
Episode 1, episode 2, it's loud crunchy food.
Yeah, we have the theme here, like the crunchy tostadas and the crunchy churros.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they're good.
So good.
I am.
You're supposed to drink the hot chocolate after.
I can't do everything at one time. So, feel bad about speaking with my mouth full, but so we wanted to share with you about the whole kind of Madrid experience and what it's like to take a little day trip there, coming from the coast where we live. So as Nalini mentioned, we took the train up there when we were talking about Loewe, and it is just a short bullet train ride. A heads up, because we're not trying to paint a super rosy picture of like everything is great. You know, the train station that you go into Madrid, which is called the Chamartin station, is not great, at least at the moment. They're doing a lot of refurbishing work, and I would actually suggest to people that if you're going to spend the day in Madrid and you're taking the train, minimize the amount of time you're taking at the train station.
Yeah.
Because it's not really a very nice place to hang out, because there's so many cool places in Madrid that you can go to.
Yeah, it's under construction, so I think when it's finally done, it will be one of the biggest.
Yes.
For sure. Don't you think the biggest in the country? I'm not sure, but what they're doing is amazing when it will be finally finished, which is, I think, a couple of years, but they've changed the layout. And this is the thing, we're not here to paint a rosy picture of everything. It's not a romantic, Orient Express
train station. No, it's not. It's
train
more like
journey. Like you get in there, you get your seat. 2.5 hours, you're in Madrid, and then
make sure you go to the restroom before you go to the train station. Yeah, you don't want to stand in line for 20 minutes.
Yeah, don't do that. Also, there's no food there right at the moment.
Yeah, very little, unless you're into fast food or Burger King. But outside of that, let's talk a little bit about our experience in the Mercado de San Miguel, in the market there.
Gosh.
So I do know it is very busy there. There are a lot of people. So for those that, like a kind of quieter experience, maybe not the right place to go for lunch. But if you are looking for kind of a bustling, like really kind of a lot of movement, a lot of energy, that's a good place to go. There must be, I don't know, probably like 100, no, maybe less than that. But a lot of different stations, you could say, or little shops in that market.
You have everything.
Everything from oysters with a glass of champagne to a little burger to olives to even a gyoza or Asian.
Oh, they had bao.
They had bao. They had all kinds of stuff. So you basically go to the market, you buy your little bits and pieces that you want, you fight with someone to try and get a chair,
a spot with your elbows,
or somewhere to sit, and then you can try all these different things. So for someone, and I don't know, Nalini, how you feel about this, but I'm very much like this, where I do kind of eat with my eyes sometimes.
Oh my gosh.
So I'll walk around, it's like, oh, that looks nice. I like the experience of the market because you're not committed to one place. I can go try one thing, and then I can try another, and then you can try another. And it's small enough where you can do that. It's like you don't have to commit to one place for a big meal.
No, and also I think if you're spending time in Madrid, you go to this market, it is not a tourist market. Yes, you will have tourists there, but it is really it's for locals. It's where people go for their morning snack or a lunch or a bite to eat. We saw a lot of students there. They were probably on their break and they were getting their empanadas.
Yes.
But it is such a feast for the eyes that I love a market, you know that. I love a market. And as soon as I walked in, it's like, oh my gosh, I want to try everything. Obviously, I didn't. Well, we tried as much as we could.
You did try. So what were a couple of things that you tried for the first time yesterday? You tried boquerones.
Yeah, which when she described it to me, I'm like, oh, I don't like.
Like, are you trying to sell me on these? Or like, are they sardines? I'm like, they're not sardines. They're like, I guess it's like a different kind of anchovy.
Oh, it was delicious though. What do you call it on the
hila? So it's basically this little.
It looks like a kebab.
Yeah, it looks like a kebab, and
it's many different things on it though.
Yes, and I think we have some visuals that we'll share with people, with like olives and cheese, and some of them even had on these little like toothpicks. Really, it's like they're like big toothpicks that are stabbing. These olives and quail egg.
Every bite on that is different. It's not It's not as if you have 3 olives and then 3 pieces of cheese. It's like an olive, a piece of cheese, uh, you know, the red pepper, the cured red pepper, a piece of fish. But it's so different every bite, and they're delicious. And also, there must have been 50 different options in that one stall.
At least, at least. And the one thing that I thought I really enjoyed about the experience at the market at Madrid yesterday as well is your son coming with us. And, when I first said, hey, we have to try the bocadillo de calamares, which is like basically a bread roll. If for those of you that can imagine like a lobster roll, but instead of the lobster inside, it's calamari. It's like fried calamari. And they put alioli, which is like a garlic sauce on it. And your son's face when he first looks at me, when he's like, what are you talking about? Calamari inside a piece of bread? But I thought it was so good when we also, suggested that he tried the churros with chocolate, and then he ended up having the calamari with a side of hot chocolate. I'm not sure I would suggest that as a kind of, the pairing, but it was, I thought it was a great moment.
And this, I mean, you convinced me to try it. So I like, I used to eat these in America all the time, and I'm going to maybe say the word incorrectly, but it's chipirrones.
Chipirones? You're really doing
good. The little baby squid that's fried and super crispy and salty. I love those. Those are delicious, but I generally do not care for the ring.
Yeah.
I don't like how it looks. I don't like the texture of it. But yesterday I had it and it was really good. It was actually really good.
Why you don't like the texture? Because in a lot of places, if the quality is not good, those calamari rings can be hard as rubber.
Yeah.
Like you could probably bounce them off someone. They're really, really hard. Whereas yesterday, I think as we were getting really good quality, they're actually kind of tender.
And they're small bites, so it's the perfect way to eat. And we saw so many, I think, just really local people who come there for their little morning snack.
And, it is a little bit more expensive inside the market because it is more of a place that people visit. But if you go to the surrounding area around the market, there's a bunch of places that sell the bocadillo de calamares. And it's kind of like half the price. But still, it was really, really good. And also, I think I just wanted to mention something funny that someone mentioned to me once about calamari. We went to a Spanish restaurant.
Yeah.
And I was with my husband, and he doesn't speak much Spanish, and the waiter actually came up to me and said, okay, so here's the rings for him, and here's the tentacles for you, because we know that the foreigners don't like the tentacles of the calamari, so they don't tend to like the people who are not from here don't tend to eat the legs, whereas you saw in the sandwich legs were also thrown in there.
It's okay because it was fried.
Yeah, exactly.
It was fried and it was covered in it was delicious. We had that, and what else did we have? I had my little tortilla.
Yes. And we'll feature tortilla in the next episode.
Yeah.
When we talk about Benidorm. But I think that's just to kind of give people a flavor of what that trip was like. Is there anything else you want to mention about the trip to Madrid that you think people would find interesting?
I think people, and I'm not saying one is better than the other, but Madrid, honestly, and I've been to Barcelona several times, I prefer Madrid for myself, just for the things that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
It's a really walkable city.
It is.
I mean, you have your comfy shoes on, it's walkable. There is just so much to see and do. The food is fantastic. And that market was so beautiful.
Yeah. And by the way, if you're thinking about, traveling around Spain and you're thinking about taking the bullet trains, if you look with enough time in advance, it can be very inexpensive.
Yeah, very inexpensive.
You can actually get to the coast some days for like €9. You have to look for the offers and that kind of thing. But it is a really neat experience to seek out. Obviously, there's all the cultural part. We're talking about the food and the shopping, but there's a tremendous amount of museums and palaces, cathedrals, all kinds of stuff.
Have you been to the palace, by the way?
I have not, actually. Maybe on one of our next trips.
It's walkable from where we were.
Awesome.
We could have walked. We were a bit lazy yesterday, but after eating, we were a bit lazy. But it's walkable. It's beautiful.
One last thing. If you go to Madrid and it's around near Christmas time, and you want to stand in line for 2 hours, you can go get yourself a Christmas lottery ticket.
Oh,
near the center, which is very, very typical of here. And every single time I've been to Madrid in my life, when I've walked near that store that sells the Christmas lottery, it's called Doña Manolita. they they have a queue that's like over 2 hours. Sometimes they even pay people to go stand in line.
Oh, really? It's El Gordo, no?
Yeah, El Gordo de Navidad.
Yeah.
The Christmas lottery here. Okay, should we transition to our phrase of the day today?
Oh my gosh, I blocked that out. But yes.
Are you ready for this?
I'm sitting up straight.
I think you're gonna kill me, but
no. Okay, hold on. Let me get my drink.
All right.
Oh, this is not gonna help my brain, but
no. So the phrase of the day today.
Mm-hmm. No, keep in mind, she has not told. We know nothing. We spent like 48 hours together.
Yes.
In the last couple of days, I do not know the phrase.
Okay, it's a. I'll say it's a Spanish phrase, but it's not just a Spanish phrase. It's kind of a a phrase that has some different connotations. It is, no tengo el chichi para farolillos.
Okay, I don't have. It's chichi. That's chichi. Should I know what this is? I know a lot of bad words. This is a bad word.
Feminine, like the female parts.
Oh, okay. I should know this. My kids say only bad words, but... say it again.
No tengo el chichi para farolillos. Okay, so... I don't, like, my feminine parts are not in the mood for farolillos are like little lights.
Okay. I'm going to say would you use that context outside of the house?
You could use that when you're trying to describe something to someone about how you're feeling. Like, no tengo el chichi para farolillos.
So would you say that to maybe, like...
Not a coworker.
Not a coworker, but maybe...
someone you know, a friend.
Not a stranger, like at a bar.
No.
No, you don't say that.
No. It's like a little inappropriate, but I wanted to see if you could actually capture what do you think it means.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, you're just not in, like, don't bother me. I'm not having it. Just,
I'm not in the mood.
Yeah,
like, don't give me a break. Like, I am not in the mood for stupidity today. You're like, no silly business. No tengo chichi para farolillos.
You know what? You're going to write that down. I'm going to use that liberally in my house.
I don't know if you want to do that. I don't know, but...
my kids will be like, stop. Say that word.
Awesome.
All right, well, what do you want to cheers with? Hot chocolate or?
I'll go with a Cava.
Yeah. There you go. Cheers.
Cheers.
And coming up on our next episode, real contrast. We've gone from Madrid and we're going to what I like to describe sometimes, and I mean it in a loving way, the baddie of Costa Blanca. Benidorm.
Perfect.